So I wanted to start out by just talking a little bit about, just like the current landscape in nutrition consulting these days. So according to the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, 6 in 10 Americans have at least one chronic disease, and 90% of the $3 trillion in healthcare spending for these types of conditions is actually preventable with diet and lifestyle. So always want to pause after sharing this statistic because it's a pretty extraordinary statistic that 90% of $3 trillion, which is an unimaginable amount of cost in healthcare, is in spending for conditions that are preventable with diet and lifestyle. So it's needless to say that this industry is in great need for this kind of support and work that nutrition consultants can provide. On top of that, organics is the fastest growing sector of the food industry, and the need for the preventative care is increasingly recognized by mainstream medicine. So, for mainstream medicine, insurance companies and hospital companies, of course, since they're profit-based, a lot of it is about economics. And they're seeing now that investing in preventative care and actually addressing diet and lifestyle is actually more cost effective for them than actually treating people once they get really sick. It's just like a big burden on the medical industry. So needless to say, what that means is that the need for nutrition consultants is just growing and growing. And we can see that because big insurance and hospital companies are actually hiring more integrative practitioners. And if you're not familiar with the term integrative, it's practitioners that have a more holistic view on things. So, by and large, hospitals historically have hired registered dietitians to support with nutrition, but they're starting to see that this holistic kind of perspective in a way that people can be held with not just nutrition, but also understanding lifestyle preferences or lifestyle recommendations and all of these things is really important. So for example, Sutter Health, which some of you, I think it's just in Northern California, but Sutter Health is a hospital company, local hospital company. It's quite large. And they actually are hiring holistic nutritionists right now. And Kaiser Permanente, of course, has a whole team of health coaches. So again, it's just like this need in mainstream medicine is growing, and we're seeing that there are a lot of jobs. And on top of it, with COVID-19, it's more and more people, of course, are turning to just like really slowing down and really starting to understand that self-care is really important, and people are starting to empower themselves more and more with trying to bolster their immune systems and just staying healthy through food. So again, it's just kind of like an upward trend with all of these things. Next slide. So in terms of careers, many of our graduates become private nutrition consultants. So a lot of people come and they are, it's like they've had a whole career already in something else, and they're looking to do something that they're really passionate about, and something where they can set their own schedules and they can work with the people that they want to work with and work in ways that they want to work. And so private nutrition consulting, of course, it means entrepreneurship, and there's like a lot of flexibility and creativity and empowerment around that. Some of our graduates choose to work with other practitioners on integrative health teams. Again, kind of like mainstream medicine is starting really increasingly seeing the need for this type of support. So many of our nutrition consultants work with physicians, and of course, Western medically trained physicians don't typically have a lot of education around nutrition, so they're seeing that as a gap, and so it's kind of like a good marriage there. It's a good fit with other integrative practitioners like acupuncturists or Ayurvedic practitioners or, fitness coaches, chiropractors, all sorts of things like that. And in terms of corporate wellness, a lot of our graduates end up going into corporate wellness because, again, it's just like corporations are seeing that there's a need to support their employees with health. And that it's like when their employees are healthy, it means that their companies are healthy too. So many of our graduates end up working for these corporations and companies that are interested in this. And they're looking specifically, again, for holistic practitioners, people who can speak about quality of food and lifestyle practices as well. Some of our graduates go and become consultants for the food industry because, again, like organics is the fastest growing sector of the food industry, but also it means that the food industry is looking to make more nutritious food. And so there's just a higher consciousness societally right now around that. So there's just great need there. And of course with schools, because historically most schools have had, serve food that is kind of depleted in nutrients. So there's a big need there as well. A lot of our graduates become writers and also ghostwriters. And if you're not familiar with the term ghostwriting, what it is that it's, a lot of these kind of bigger names in the health and wellness industry, like Dr. Andrew Weil and Chris Kresser and Dr. Oz even, they're probably not spending the time writing their own blog posts at this point. And so they have a team of people who actually fulfill those needs. There are a lot of writing needs for those types of people. So the pay is actually pretty good for the people who have the knowledge to be able to support people in that way. And of course, it's like almost no matter what our graduates end up doing, they become teachers in some sort of way. They're educating and they're spreading this knowledge. Next slide. So in terms of our program, the one thing, we pride it on a lot of different things, but it's something that we really pride ourselves on is that it's science-based, and we teach the science of and nutritive value of all whole foods. And we really dive into the research. Our curriculum team goes into scientific journals to pull information into our curriculum. And we really want to graduate students who have the in-depth of knowledge to really understand the whys behind everything, because we feel like to teach responsibly, to help clients responsibly, our graduates really have to understand the whys and really understand how to explain things to people and just really have that depth of understanding. So our curriculum is such that there's like a pretty, significant amount of science in there. And so that just feels really important to us. It's also non-dogmatic, which means that, we don't subscribe to any sort of particular diet. So we don't recommend, veganism, paleo, Weston Price, GAPS, like all of these things are talked about and our students learn about them, but we don't recommend that like any one style of eating for everyone. And so in that way, we're really inclusive because we actually welcome all eating styles. And we support this idea of bioindividuality, which kind of says that every single person, based on who they are, really has a different set of nutritional needs and lifestyle needs. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it's when we teach our students, it's like we want them to get to know their clients well, to really understand them, to support them in a way where they can make recommendations that are supportive for that person. And it's, even if they're making recommendations in one way, that client may change 2 months later. And so that set of recommendations may change based on that. So that's how nuanced and individualized it is. We also feel that it's important to have community, ecological, and social considerations in our curriculum. So the idea being that we can't really heal as individuals if society doesn't also heal, and also our ecosystem and our earth doesn't heal. So we talk about all of those different levels of healing and how they interact with each other, and why it's important to look broadly and look at societal healing as something that informs individual healing. So in that, we do consider disparities in food access and healthcare that underlie these health inequities in different populations. Because again, if we don't look at those things and acknowledge those things and have awareness of those things, then it's a bit of a missed opportunity to really bring integrated healing in our society. And really at the bottom of it, we really believe that it's all about reconnection. So it's about reconnecting to ourselves, reconnecting to each other, reconnecting to our communities, reconnecting to nature, reconnecting to the earth. Like all of these things are kind of like at the crux of like what we teach. Next slide. So some nuts and bolts here. The nutrition consultant program is 800 hours, and it's accredited under the National Holistic Institute. And graduates are eligible to sit for the board exam in holistic nutrition and become board certified in holistic nutrition. So upon completion of the program, graduates are able to sit for that exam. And the program starts 4 times a year. So the program itself this is kind of like a rough overview of what the coursework looks like. We have 2 foundational courses, which we go through our Eating for Health model, which is talking about the benefits of all whole foods and talking about health hazards. And something else we talk about is like environmental toxins, because of course there are so many right now. And so it's not just looking at nutrition, but it's also looking at toxic exposure. It's looking at sleep. It's looking at the quality of sleep and how people sleep. It's looking at interactions with like relationships with other people, amounts of stress. It's really kind of like 360 view on health. So in this first module, you get introduced to all of these different ideas. We go into macro and micronutrients, of course, as like foundational ideas behind nutrition, and digestion, of course, is like one of the most important things that you'll learn about in regards to nutrition. And we have 2 modules on chronic disease prevention and management, in which we teach disease manifestation through the functional medicine model, where if you haven't heard of that before, it's kind of like the idea that a lot of the chronic diseases that we see today, such as type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, stroke, cancer, mental illness, a lot of these are just various manifestations of like the same root causes of disease, which, among some of them are blood sugar dysregulation and chronic inflammation. So it's rather than seeing these disease manifestations as being like really separate ideas, we really do teach that, well, these are just different ways that these kind of same core root causes can manifest. And then the foundational courses also include a module on exercise and sports nutrition. Next slide. In the advanced courses, we go more into, it becomes like very, foundational courses are science, there's a lot of science too, but this is where we really dive into the biochemistry of things. So the coursework is more broken down based on the systems of the body and conditions. So we have a module on endocrine health where the students learn about hormones and their interactions. There's the one about the immune system, the cardiovascular system, musculoskeletal, different various parts of the life cycle, reproductive health, and things like that. So it really, again, it's like we feel like it's really important to go into the science so that our graduates really, really understand the whys and that they have the depth of knowledge to really have the confidence to educate and support clients in the future really well. We also have a course all about nutrition consultant business. So, you know, the idea being that it's like we want to make sure that our graduates are well supported, not only with the nutrition information, but also with kind of like the business savvy and the knowledge that they need to have successful careers. So we'll talk about marketing and finances and, you know, client databases and insurance and things like that. So by the end of that, students do complete a business plan. In the final research project, the students, this is kind of like a culmination of their work, and they have the opportunity themselves to dive into something that they might be particularly interested in, kind of focusing on in the future, and kind of folding that in with work with a client. And so they have practical experience working with a client as well as diving into scientific literature and kind of like creating this final research project at the end. And it's really, you know, it's quite sweet to see these come out because the students are really, really proud of what they've done. And it's really extraordinary, the work that they do here. I forgot to mention also in the advanced courses that the students do work with practice clients, like 2 practice clients in the advanced courses and another one in the final research project. And then in the practicum, there is additional client work. So all to say that there are plenty of opportunities to actually work with clients with the support of faculty and being in school. And in addition, in the practicum, the students have an opportunity to just do community education, again, with the support of faculty. So some features of the program, it's all online, so it's very flexible. And in terms of just kind of like the pacing, so you all kind of like understand, you know, when you need to show up online together or not, it's the students move through the program with kind of like in a cohort. So you do have classmates. And again, it's like this idea of community is really important to us, like all of, and connecting with each other. So that's kind of like the idea of having a cohort and people that you move through the program with. And so community is created through discussion boards, and we have module calls with breakout sessions via Zoom. And those happen about on average, like every 3 weeks or so. There's also the opportunity for weekly one-on-one office hours with instructors via Zoom. And the way that the curriculum the program was designed was with modern education technology, and we worked with education technology consultants to really put together something to optimize retention and practical application. So in the foundational classes, we developed these animated characters, and they're actually case studies, and you get to meet these character case studies right from the beginning, because we felt like it was really important to make sure that the content and the information that we were teaching wasn't just abstract, but it was like directly applicable to clients, like right from the get-go. There's also, we incorporated this idea of micro-learning, which is kind of like, you know, just like little bits of learning activities. So it's like maybe watching a 4-minute video, then reading for 10 minutes, and then taking an interactive self-assessment quiz, and then watching another video. So it's really fun and interactive, and you have opportunities throughout the program to kind of like assess yourself, without being graded. It's just kind of like, okay, just like knowledge check. And you'll get to see Diane, a nutrition consultant instructor, is here with us today, and she's going to show you around a little bit. We also have a module all about the foundations of health coaching, because we felt like it was also important to make sure that our students were well supported in terms of really understanding how to work with clients. So it's not just about having the knowledge, but also knowing how to work with people to understand how to empower them to make sustainable changes. Kind of like the idea that most people know that they probably need to drink more water, eat less sugar, and eat more vegetables, but it's like, why aren't we doing that? So it's like really the module goes into supporting our students to really understand how to work with people to help make those sustainable changes. And I already talked about the client work. So the program is 15 months in length, and on average, you can expect to spend about 15 hours a week on the program. And it's like approximate, because there are opportunities, of course, if you're ever extra interested in a particular topic, we provide additional resources for you to like do your own self-study around it. The pacing is 1 class per week, except for in the later courses, like where it goes into business and practicum and final research project, it gets a little bit, there aren't like really classes per se, it gets a little bit more irregular. And in terms of the classwork, it's all what we call asynchronous, which means that you can do it on your own time, as long as you're keeping up with completing the 1 class per week. So you can do your reading whenever you want. You can do your, go through the lessons. You can write your discussion boards whenever you want within that week. So, you can accommodate your work schedule or, your family or life schedule. And some people are morning people, some people are evening people. So it's really accommodating in that way. And the only time you ever have to show up in kind of like real time with other people is during these module calls that happen once every about like 3 weeks or so on average. And we do have a morning option and an evening option. And then you also have the option to meet with one-on-one with instructors for 15 minutes, like office hours every week. Next slide. So in the foundational courses, you have, this is what one, well, let me see here. You have 1 discussion board per class, and the pacing is 1 class per week. So in 1 week, you'll have 1 discussion board, 1 quiz, and you'll have reading assignments, and you'll have a lesson to go through. And in 1 module, which is about 3 weeks on average, you'll have 1 larger assignment and 1 module call. And then 1 exam, you'll have 1 exam at the end of the whole course. So like that's, I don't know how many months that is, but you will have like a couple of exams throughout the program. In the advanced courses, you have 1 discussion board per week, 1 quiz per, like on average 3 weeks, and then you have client work, which I described earlier. And then you have some of these larger reports. So you don't have the assignments are less frequent, but they're a little bit larger because we support students in kind of working more with scientific literature and doing their own research and kind of like digging a little bit deeper. Next slide. So I want to introduce to you Diane Fischler, who is our nutrition consultant program manager and also an instructor, and she's going to show you our Canvas dashboard and walk you around a little bit to show you what it looks like to learn online.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to just kind of show you physically visually what Rosie just told you, so it'll get a little bit clearer. So I'm going to screen share with you, and I'll show you a Canvas dashboard, what you will be seeing. Okay, can everyone just give me a nod if you can see? Yeah, okay. So your dashboard is going to be on Canvas, which is very easy to use. It's a lot of fun to use, and you'll be guided through this. For each module, as Rosie was saying, we've got an overview. So for example, for the first one, which is eating for health, and tell me, can you see this overview? Yeah, okay. So it's going to just explain to you over the next 3-week period. It'll tell you what you're going to do, investigating additives in your food, researching a new healthy food, share what you bring to the table, summarize a journal, because you're going to be learning about yourself too. It's not all about what you are going to bring out to your clients. You'll do some self-learning here so that you get an insight into your own challenges, and that helps you to understand what might be going on with potential clients. So again, the overview is going to break down what's within each of your lessons per module or classes. So you've got, these are your classes or lessons in the module, and I'll show you how that breaks down further. So you're just going to be getting an overview here about health hazards, what we call hazards, things like, your basic processed sugary foods, your sodas, your commercially prepared baked goods, and so on. The health hazards of what we call the standard American diet, identify them in your own diet, environmental toxins, as Rosie mentioned earlier, and so on. So you'll always have an overview. So that's at the beginning of each module. You'll have, the way it's set up is you'll have reading assignments to do. And as she was saying, as Rosie said, there are about roughly 2 to 3 lessons per module. So in this case, there are 3. And we'll look at complete the reading assignments. So you're going to have a reading assignment for each lesson. And it's usually not a very heavy assignment, but it ties in with the lesson. And so you're going to learn some interesting concepts. It will tell you what the goal of your reading is. And we have some great books for you, so I think you'll enjoy those. You'll have your reading assignment. You'll have your lesson, and I'll show you that afterward because I'm saving the best for last. It's really fun. You've got a discussion, research a new healthy food in this case, and it's going to refer you back to some information that you worked on in an earlier part of the module. You have a worksheet that you're working on. It'll ask you some questions, and then you post to an area. And you can see this student really went to town here and posted a lot of information that she learned about a new healthy food. And here's where and she even put some references, which was great. And then other people responded to her. She responded back. And you, as Rosie was saying, start to develop community. That's one of the things that is very surprising about online learning, is how much community you can develop. So we've got students in conversation with each other, going back and forth, commenting on each other's posts. And then we've got another student who talks about what she's researching, and so on, the back and forth and the commenting. And then each of these are graded individually. Then you've got your quiz. I didn't pull a screenshot for that or open that up, but it's a basic 10-question quiz where you're answering questions about what you learned. For each module also, I did pull a quiz. Let's see if we can open up and look at a question. So here, can you see the question here? Quiz instruction question 1. Can you see this? Yeah, okay. So it just asks you which activities, right off, we're talking about our scope of practice, which activities are not within our scope of practice. And then you would, answer that and move on to the next question. And so on. So you have then a homework assignment, one larger assignment per module, And for the Eating for Health module, you're going to be doing some self-journaling, a bandits journal, a nutrition and activity journal where you'll track what you're eating, and then a stress journal, and you'll be making some observations about that. And you'll have the opportunity to, this isn't something you share with everyone else. This is just, your own work. And then you would upload that, and your instructor would review it and commented on that as well. So let's take a quick look at, and you can see each of the lessons in the module are set up the same way. You can expect to spend about 15 hours a week on your work. Rosie did mention that at the end of each lesson, there are further resources. So if you say, I really am intrigued by this particular topic, whatever it might be, digestion, for example, and that is a foundational aspect of this program, is understanding digestion. You may want to really dig deeply into that. And so we've got all kinds of resources for each of the topics. But let me show you the fun stuff here. Where are we? So this is what a lesson would look like. And so you begin your module, recognize this person. There's Rosie. She has a little intro for you. And then it tells you what your learning objectives are. This is what you're going to be learning in each lesson, in each section of this lesson. And I won't go too far into this, but just to show you that here are two of our characters. Here's David and his doctor, and he's having a consultation with her and finding out maybe he's got some health challenges. He presents his journal to her, and so on. And you can see that there's a lot of little self quizzes and your own journaling and goal setting and so on. And this is what it looks like. So, and then a little self-assessment again. So rather than going on too deeply into here, I just wanted to give you, Rosie, is there anything you wanted me to show that I didn't show, or do you think I gave them a nice taste?
I think that was great. Yeah, thank you, Diane.
So that's what you can look forward to. And good. I see the thumbs up. I appreciate that. Each of your modules is going to be set up exactly the same way. And when you get to therapeutics, it's going to, or, the advanced course is going to look a little different, be a little bit more complex, more clinical. But by the time you get there, you're going to be ready. So hoping to see some of you in a couple of weeks in class.